Going.
First year.
Anthony, what's your name? What'd you make me test?
Alright! Today,
What'd you get?
today we have a little treat for you.
Candy?
We're actually studying sex cells. We're studying sex cells today. Sex cells. And what we're going to learn, we're going to learn how cells, they do a special form of cell division to form your sex cells. And your sex cells are called your gametes. We're talking about sperms and eggs, sperms for guys and eggs for girls. And these are special cells because they're the only types of cells that can combine together to make a new person. Or dog, bird, tree, all organisms that sexually reproduce do this. And it's a special kind of cell division that has to be done to make these gametes. And we got to learn about it. It's like mitosis, but it's a little different. And the result is making sex cells, and the sex cells combine together, and that combination creates a new organism that's kind of a mix of the parents. And that's how information is passed along from generation to generation through your sex cells. And the next thing we'll study is these genetics problems, which involve doing matings and crossings, and you have to be able to figure out from the parents what the kids are going to end up like. But before we are able to do genetics problems, we have to first learn about the process of making these sex cells. So that's what we're studying today. It's the stuff we just learned will help you understand this. But if you turn to page 270 in your book, meiosis is what it's called. And meiosis takes a cell, and this cell that I have on the board has 6 chromosomes. Okay? But in a human, it's how many? Do you remember? 46. Now, sperms and eggs, they don't have 46 in humans. They have half that. They have 23.
So that way they can combine.
That way a sperm that has 23 can combine with an egg that has 23, and then the new cell has 46, you see? And then that new cell can divide by mitosis into the 80 trillion cells that ends up making up an adult human. So everybody here started as one cell.
Yep.
The combination between dad's sperm and mom's egg.
Yeah.
Because they had sex.
So,
Okay? You can ask them about that. Tonight at dinner, maybe.
I don't want to talk about that yet.
We don't have dinner at my house.
Yeah, something?
So,
Yeah.
if we take a look at this cell, I want you to notice something about the chromosomes. Do you see how there are 2 sets of them?
Yeah.
Everybody pay attention, this isn't easy. There are 2 sets of chromosomes up here. What I mean is there's 2 big ones,
2 little ones.
there's 2 little ones,
2 medium ones.
and 2 medium ones. And I have them in different colors.
6. 1 sperm.
The green set came from your dad. The white set came from your mom.
It should be that way around.
So each parent contributes half the chromosomes to your cells. And if you notice, each parent has a big one that they contributed, a medium one, and a small one. So you got 1 set from your dad, 1 set from your mom. Each chromosome is information, remember DNA, that's all coiled up? And the DNA carries your genes, your traits. For instance, if right here where this black dot is information for eye color, you got one eye color gene from your mom. You also got an eye color gene from your dad. And it's on the same chromosome in the same location.
Then how do you decide what color you get if you get two eye colors?
Ah, that's what we'll study next
You can be a
chapter.
dominant.
But some are dominant and some are recessive, you see.
Hey,
I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but if you got, let's say, brown eyes from your dad and blue eyes from your mom, you would actually probably end up with brown eyes, although we'll have to study that next chapter, but we say brown eyes are dominant to blue eyes. Yes?
But sometimes it can mess up and you get half.
That's right. We'll talk about that next chapter.
Yeah.
And those get the freaks.
Okay, so keep that in mind. On the chromosomes are genes. You get a set of genes from your mom and a set of genes from your dad. So you actually have two genes for each trait. A trait meaning eye color or height or skin color. You have two genes for each trait, not just one. You have two, one from your mom and one from your dad. Other questions? Okay. So let's go into meiosis here. By the way, we call these matching chromosomes, we say they're homologous.
Homologous chromosomes?
Homologous chromosomes, meaning matching. For instance, these two are homologous, these two are homologous, these two are homologous. You have 23 homologous pairs, 46 total chromosomes. You got 23 from your mom, 23 from your dad. Question?
This desk's got like something sticking in my back. One of these is loose. Can I switch it with that?
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, so when we're going to divide these things up and make sex cells, woo, we're going to go through the same phases we studied before: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. But we're going to go through them twice. Remember, going through them once made two cells that both had 46 chromosomes. If we go through the stages twice, we're going to end up with 4 cells that have 23 chromosomes each.
Do it.
We're going to divide these cells up by going through these stages twice. We call them meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. Prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, telophase 1. There's also a little cytokinesis. And then prophase 2, metaphase 2, anaphase 2, telophase 2, and cytokinesis also. I guess we can put the C in there. And you'll see we'll divide this single cell up into 4 cells, each having half the number of chromosomes. Now, where is this happening in your body? Or in the body of any animal or plant out there? It happens in the sex organs. In females, this is happening in your ovary. This is an ovary cell. In males, this is happening in your testes. This is a testes cell. Okay? So, in a male's testes, I'll do it for a male. In a man's testes, imagine this cell is in the testes. There's actually millions of these cells doing this, not just one. Because men produce about 200 million sperm a day. So this is happening millions of times every day in the testes. So here we go. Meiosis 1. Same things happen in interphase as before. I don't have any my Citriel's magnets, so I use these yellow things.
Hey, bro, should I hit the lights?
I'm going to keep them on so it's easier to see this. Okay? Sorry. So, same thing happens in interphase. We go through a G1 where the cell grows, and an S phase where it copies the DNA, so we have 2 identical copies. I'm going to mix these up a little bit. Right now they aren't. They're just floating around like that. And then the G2 where it's getting ready. And then prophase. In prophase, what happens with the... Y'all tell me some things that happen in prophase. Same here. Prophase 1.
Centrioles move to the opposite side.
Centrioles move to opposite sides
Nuclear envelope
and shoot out spindle fibers.
Nuclear envelope to race.
I'm going to draw some little spindle fibers, but I'm not going to draw them going all the way
Nuclear
across.
envelope to
And the
race.
asterisks.
What happens?
No, nuclear envelope is erased.
Nuclear envelope is erased. Very good.
The nucleus disappears.
Nucleolus disappears. What happens with the chromosomes?
They tighten
They
They coil up so we can see them.
Yes.
Yep.
Now we can see them.
Yep.
But here's something different that happens in meiosis, different from mitosis. Big difference here. Watch this.
Weird ears.
The homologous pairs find each other. Doop. And pair up with one another.
Well, that's so.
And when they're paired up with one another, something very interesting happens. It's called crossing over. The chromosomes actually kind of lay on top of one another, like this.
Is that possible?
And they hug each other, like they love each other.
Like.
And in doing so, pieces of the DNA get switched, like this.
Check the sound effect up.
See how the pieces of DNA got switched?
Yeah.
Now, I only have one piece on my magnets that do this, but you have to imagine this. See a little piece of the green is now on the white? You have to imagine that happening in many locations. So
Yep.
there would be green stripes all through the white, and there would be white stripes all through the green. It happens in 3 or 4 spots on each chromosome. And it's random how it happens. It might happen right there, and then the next cell that does this, it might happen in a different location.
Are the switches even?
Absolutely not.
They are not even. I mean, they're even, you mean on either side?
Yeah.
Yeah, this piece and that piece are the same size.
Okay. So
Yes,
they all
yes,
have the same-
yes. Now, so what we have done here is we have, by switching pieces around, we have created new chromosomes that have never existed before. This chromosome was an exact copy of this one. But now, since those pieces have switched, they aren't exact copies of one another anymore. Each chromosome is different. And what that ends up doing is causing what we call genetic diversity. You never see 2 kids that are alike.
Twins.
Kids are always different. And they're different from their parents.
What about
What
twins?
about twins?
Well, identical twins are alike, and that's a whole different case.
What about triplets?
Where the first cell after the sperm and egg come together, that first cell can sometimes reproduce itself. And that forms identical twins, which are the same. But other than that, you don't ever see the same kids.
Yeah, what's
Quintuplets are just like identical twins, just multiplied over and over.
Octuplets.
Same thing.
What's the biggest set of twins ever be born?
I don't know.
16,000.
12?
Yep.
They're
Really? It's fun.
Okay,
Trust me.
listen.
They're all my sons.
This is going to take a long time if y'all are making comments the whole time. Y'all haven't learned that yet? Just raise your hand if you want to ask a question. The question about the twins was good,
Yeah.
but raise your hand to ask it, and then don't make extra comments. It's pretty easy to do. So all that happens in prophase 1. It's pretty much the same as mitosis, except for the crossing over and homologous pairs pairing up. Now, metaphase 1. What happened in metaphase 1 of mitosis? I mean, what happened in metaphase of mitosis? Yes, Tom.
They line up in the middle.
Hey. They line up in the middle.
I did know.
Same thing happens here.
On the spindle fiber.
Yes, they're moving on these spindle fibers and they line up in the middle. Only this time it's the pairs that are lined up in the middle. They're lined up divided by pairs. And in anaphase And by the way, they're showing this. There's prophase 1. You see the cells here? Drew? You see the cells here paired up with the
Drew, move
camera. There you go.
It's too bright.
I can't see the screen,
You'll
bro.
be able to see it on the replay.
Sure you ever done this before?
I would if you could see anything but a big white flash.
Should we turn the lights off?
No.
Okay.
Here's where it talks about crossing over. And then metaphase 1, they're lined up in the middle. And then anaphase 1, they separate. And the chromosomes actually come apart and start moving to opposite sides like this. But notice they didn't split in the middle like they did in mitosis. The pair split up. So each half of the cell gets one set of chromosomes. Remember, we're going to form sperm and eggs here, and sperm and eggs only have one set. They don't have two sets. So do you notice each side gets a large, a medium, and a small? You see?
Yes.
And then telophase 1, it's the same as before, basically. A new nucleus forms. That happens on either side. Spindle fibers disappear,
Burrow.
just as before.
Burrow.
New nucleus forms. And in cytokinesis, the cell pinches in, and we now have two cells.
Almost.
And notice, each has half the number of chromosomes as before. 1, 2, 3, not 6. 23 instead of 46. We're on our way to forming sperm and eggs. Yes?
Then if the switch is like exact, why do some people look more like their mom and some people look more like their dad?
The dominant.
Well, that has to do with the way the chromosomes assorted themselves. Do you notice that this side has 2 greens and a white? And this side has 2 whites and a green? Well, the green were the chromosomes that you got from your dad, and the white were the chromosomes that you got from your mom. So if you pass on a cell that has a bunch of greens, the baby will end up looking more like the father's side of the family. If you pass on the cell that has the whites, the baby will look more like the mother's side of that family, of the person who's creating the sperm. You see what I'm saying? So it happens on the way they, it's called independent assortment, the way these things divide up. It also depends upon the dominant and recessive genes that we'll talk about next one. If your if you got a lot of dominant genes from your dad, you're going to end up looking more like your dad because those traits dominant.
Yeah, I got my dad's in it.
Okay. We're not done yet. We still have to divide up these copies. In other words, remember that and that were exact copies. There will be some white, some
Strands.
white stripes, but we still have to divide that up. We don't need 2, each sperm cell doesn't need 2 of the medium-sized chromosome. So we have to go through these stages again. Now right here where this line is, there's a time period where these cells are just sitting there, and one thing that they do is they copy their centrioles again. The centrioles copy themselves. And this is called interkinesis. Interkinesis.
Enter.
It's like interphase, but it's not interphase because the cell's not copying its DNA and all that. And the cell doesn't grow any. It's called interkinesis. Anaphase, telophase, okay, so now we're on the second set of divisions. The second set of divisions, prophase 2. And the Nuclear membrane disintegrates once again. Centrioles move to opposite sides of the cell, and this time I'm going to do it up and down because it makes it easier to understand on the board.
Does that mean they line up horizontally then?
Yep. Yep. Put out spindle fibers. Same thing happens over here. Centrioles move to opposite sides and put out spindle fibers. They got the asterisks that go backwards. Same thing as before. Metaphase 2, what happens in metaphase? They line up in the middle. And this will happen on both sides.
Celebrate more.
Anaphase 2, they break off and move. Break off and move.
Which phase do they combine or
Sex stage.
what?
Where a sperm combines with an egg?
When they get on top of each other?
That's prophase 1. That only happened in prophase 1. It doesn't happen in meiosis 2.
Alright.
Good question.
And so this one they actually split like into chromatids.
They split at their centromere into individual chromatids. That's right. And then telophase 2, a new nuclear membrane forms again. This is why one reason why we learn the stages of mitosis so well, because it happens in meiosis too.
Yeah.
That'll help you if you get this essay. This essay is describe meiosis, and you've already done mitosis, so you know a lot of it.
So basically, this is just the mitosis essay again, but
But there's some differences, aren't there?
there is.
Now each cell's going to split. And now
Bro, you're an artist.
we have 4 cells where we started with 1. And each cell, in this case, is going to grow a tail because it's in a man.
And that's flagella.
And those are the flagella that move the sperm around. Now we have 4 sperm cells. Count the number of chromosomes. 1, 2, 3. We started with 6, we end up with 3. We started with 46, we end up with 23. Half the number of chromosomes. There's a word for a cell that has half the number of chromosomes. You know what that word is? Haploid.
I was gonna say half.
A haploid cell has half the number of chromosomes. Do you know what a cell is called if it has the full number of chromosomes? It's called a diploid cell.
I don't think.
A diploid cell has the full number of chromosomes. A haploid cell has half the number of chromosomes. Now, I want you to notice something about these cells. They're all different. Look, this has 2 whites and a green. This has 2 greens and a white. This has 2 greens and a white with a piece of white. This has 2 whites and a green with a piece of green. Woo. They're all different. Never are 2 sperm cells come out the same. Because of crossing over, and because of the way the chromosome split is random, all the greens could go to one side, all the whites could go to another. You could have 2 greens and a white, and 2 whites and a green. They can split up randomly. So this sperm is going to have more traits from the dad's side of the family because it's got 2 greens. This sperm is going to have more traits from the mom's side of the family because it's got 2 whites. So if you're a male making these sperms, all the sperms are going to end up differently. This is going to end up looking like the grandma, basically, because it's got white traits that came from her side of the family. See what I'm saying? Well, because it's got more whites than the green.
Why wouldn't it look
Couldn't
like
it be like
her?
the dad of the mom's side?
This would look, well, the mom's side creates the egg.
It's in the ovaries.
Okay.
This is all in the male.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I know.
So it would either look like the dad's father's side of the family or the dad's mother's side of the family. If it got more whites, it looked like the dad's mother's side of the family. If it got more greens, it would look like the dad's father's side of the family. And then we'll combine the sperm with eggs from a whole different family. And then the new genes will be this combination that has never existed before. The kids will look different from the adults. That's meiosis. You want to watch video footage?
Yes. Yes.
Now I'll turn out the lights. Oh, yeah.
Cell division, whereby the cell undergoes 2 nuclear divisions, reducing the number of chromosomes in the cell to 1/2. This process occurs in 9 steps. During interphase, the cell replicates its chromosomes. After replication, each chromosome consists of 2 identical sister chromatids held together by a centromere. During prophase 1, the homologous chromosomes condense and begin to form pairs. At this stage, chromosomal segments can be exchanged between the pair of homologous chromosomes in a process called crossing over. As prophase 1 continues, centrioles move to the cell's opposite poles and spindle fibers form and bind to the homologous chromosomes at the centromere. During metaphase 1, the homologous chromosome pairs line up randomly at the equator. During anaphase 1, the homologous chromosomes separate and each member of the pair moves to the opposite poles of the cell. This critical step ensures that each new cell will receive only 1 chromosome from each homologous pair. During telophase 1, the spindle is broken down, the chromosomes uncoil, and the cytoplasm divides to yield 2 new cells. The second division in meiosis is simply a mitotic division of the products of meiosis 1. During prophase 2, a spindle forms in each of the 2 new cells, and the spindle fibers attach to the chromosomes. During metaphase 2, the chromosomes move to the center of the cell and line up at the equator. Anaphase 2 begins as the centromere of each chromosome splits, allowing the sister chromatids to separate and move to opposite poles. Finally, in telophase 2, nuclei reform, the spindles break down, and the cytoplasm divides. At the end of meiosis 2, 4 haploid cells have been formed from 1 diploid cell. These haploid cells will become gametes, transmitting the genes they contain to offspring.
Doesn't that look like what's on the board?
Does.
Exactly.
And I'll finish 2 seconds.
So, those are the stages of my meiosis. And what I want to do, now, is I want to run that one more time. Let's do it one more time. Again, this is your essay. Your essay, if you roll it for this chapter, is to describe meiosis.
If I can cut it off.
No, just let's split it.
Well, the thing
And then
is,
should we
the
go
battery's dead.
Let it cut off on its own.
Mr. Willis?
Yes.
When we're if we get this essay, should we just start with the interface and then do the way they have it in the book, just to order our book?
Yeah. Yeah. We started interface.
I didn't write interface on my test. Nice. Is that alright? Obviously.
Yeah, I didn't count off if you didn't write it. But
So
it
wait,
doesn't
this
hurt.
essay is on meiosis?
Meiosis.
I've been paying attention.
All right, let's take a look here. If you didn't get it the first time, pay attention now. This is a cell. This cell is located where?
In the testes.
Testes or ovaries? PMAT1, PMAT-C1, PMAT-C2. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go.
What is Z2?
One more time. Uno mas. Cell is ready. It's in the testes. It's going to divide and make some sperm cells.
Yeah.
First thing that happens, chromosomes coil up so you can see them. Is there any evidence that the cell has copied its DNA?
Absolutely.
2 sister
They're 2
chromatids.
sister chromatids.
Who told you guys?
The nuclear membrane comes apart. Centrioles move to opposite sides and shoot out spindle fibers. I'm not going to draw them. It takes too much time. What else happens here that did not happen before? The homologous pair. Here's how you say this in your essay. The homologous pairs come together and crossing over occurs, where the homologous pairs exchange pieces. And this results in new chromosomes that have never existed before. Then they line up. Now this part of meiosis is called independent assortment.